Welcome to Muscles and Malarkey, a podcast about all things strength, fitness, and fun. I'm your host, Mary. Today, I want to get into some of the great learning lessons I have had throughout my lifting career. When I first started getting into the gym, I immediately jumped into powerlifting. You don't have to jump into powerlifting when you first start in the gym, as we discussed in the gym basics episode. So just know that my perspective is skewed a little bit because I went from 0 to 100 with nothing in between. That's just kind of how I am as a person, though. You know what is the best way to learn? Being fucking stupid and doing stupid things and making stupid mistakes. Here are a smattering of stupid things I did and the thought processes I had when I first got into powerlifting. Sit back, relax, and enjoy, because this is probably going to be a funny one. So first mistake I made. I wore a Polar watch alongside my Fitbit. So, of course, if you want to track your steps or track your workouts, how long you're there for, your heart rate and stuff, whatever, that's fine. However, I felt the need to wear both at the same time when I worked out. So a Polar watch is obviously a watch you wear on your wrist, and it's connected to a heart rate monitor, which is this strap that you fasten, if you're a lady, underneath your bra strap. That kept track of your heart rate, your calories burned, and it looks at how much time you're in each zone, which is based off your heart rate. So there's zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and it would say if it was a really hard workout, oh, you were in zone 3 for 37 minutes and you were in zone 1 for an hour and a half. And it's shut up, Polar watch, why are you judging me? If you don't know what a Fitbit is, a Fitbit, now they've kind of combined what the Polar watch was doing for me at the time. But at the time, what Fitbit was primarily just tracking your steps. And your steps, your sleep. This was 7 years ago, okay? I digress. But I felt the need to wear both. So it's hilarious looking back and seeing pictures or videos from that time. Girl, chill out. You're doing too much over there. Okay. By the way, I will say, take pictures and videos. Take videos of your lifts. It's not embarrassing. I promise. And it's really funny when you look back on that and you're like, wow, look at how dumb I was when I first started. Or if you want to be positive, wow, look at how much progress I've made and how much better my form and my technique are. You can do both. Number 2. I wanted to go super heavy when I first started. I was 23. I was still an idiot. I'm 30. I'm still an idiot. It's fine. But I wanted to go super heavy because I thought it was really fun to see, oh my gosh, how much can I deadlift today? How much can I squat today? I look back at my form at that time and I see some very questionable techniques. I remember I deadlifted 250 pounds for 3 reps within a month or so of starting lifting. If you told me that now, if you said to me, oh yeah, my cousin, she's 23 and she's been in the gym for a month and she's deadlifting 250 pounds for 3 reps, I'd be like, yo, your cousin's strong as shit. Your cousin is really, really strong. They're going to be super strong. Yeah, no, at the time I was like, wow, that's really not that impressive. At that time of deadlifting that 250, I had no belt on. It was all low back. LOL, LOL, LOL. And I ended up stressing out my body so much between the poor form and the stressful work environment that I had. I had just started as an occupational therapist. I was working in a short-term rehab facility, a skilled nursing facility, and I was having to do a lot of really, really heavy transfers, day in and day out. And I also didn't know how to brace properly, and that was a problem. Let me explain what bracing is first. Bracing is when you create rigidity in your trunk, aka your core or your abdomen. You create this rigidity by increasing your intra-abdominal pressure. before completing a lift. So you brace before you start your squat or you start to pick up your deadlift. Fun fact, this is also called the Valsalva maneuver, aka bearing down, like when you bear down to poop. And I learned about that in OT school. So hey, look at that. If only I applied that when I was transferring patients. That probably would have helped me a lot. Neato. Anywho, since I didn't know how to brace correctly and I had questionable form, I put a lot of excess stress on my low back musculature and irritating my low back, or like my first bout of low back sass, we'll get to it later. It led me to learning better form and technique, so that was a positive that came from it. I've become someone who enjoys the work of coming in day after day and making small adjustments to improve my lifts by 1%. Maybe. It led me to adopting the mentality of executing each rep as best as possible and not just rushing through the motions. So even though my form was really bad and I was trying to max out all the time, it did lead me to become a better athlete. And also, I had some good confidence, right? Because I had already lifted it with bad form. So that means I could do it with the right form and it was going to be better. Moving on to number 3, because this reminds me, be careful of who you listen to. Remember how I said that at the time, I didn't think that 250 pounds was really that big of a deal? It's partially because some of the people that I had surrounded myself with at the time weren't exactly the most encouraging. You may encounter some people who don't have the most accurate information, and I will be the first to say that I do not know everything. But if some gym bro says, "Why are you always following a program? You could lift so much heavier." You know what you do? You don't listen to them, okay? Because they probably don't have the best intentions for you. You want to know what makes you strong? Doing submaximal weight, emphasizing good technique, and practicing that over and over again. Submaximal weight means that you're working within a range, like you're using a weight that you can complete all the repetitions of that movement in your set with at least like the last one or so being kind of tough. So don't listen to the gym bros when they try and tell you to go heavy, go heavy, go heavy, because pushing yourself to max out every couple of weeks does way more harm than good. You cannot force your body to get stronger with the snap of your fingers. It takes time and consistency, doing the reps over and over. And I will tell you as well, I've had more than one person tell me that they wish they hadn't maxed out all the time when they first started. Because truly, it is a common mistake that people make. And I would very much implore you to avoid it, my party people. Number 4, speaking of questionable techniques, my squat form. Ooh, child. Let me tell you, a bish was not mobile. In order for me to even get close to parallel, my heels came off the floor. My chest was way far forward, like I was leaning forward. And the bar path was not a straight up and down line. She was a mess. Hearing that, you may not understand all of it, but you may be thinking to yourself, she should not add weight to that. If that's how that looks, she shouldn't add weight. And you, my dear listener, would be absolutely correct in that statement. But do you know what my dumbass did? I loaded weight onto my squat. And remember, I still wasn't bracing properly. Side note, if you want to know how to brace, definitely look it up on YouTube. I will give you a simple-ish way to explain it as best I can. So imagine someone is going to sucker punch you in the gut. You want to tighten up your entire midsection so that you're prepared for that impact. But you know what else is going to help prepare for that? Getting the whole corset of your midsection tight. Like seriously, think of how a corset wraps around your midsection. and think about taking a breath in through your nose, filling your midsection with air, and tightening or like clenching all of the muscles in your core set. You are making your body stable to move heavy weight efficiently and effectively when you brace. So here I was. No knee sleeves, no belt, no form, no brace, no AirPods, no squat shoes, no nobles, no idea, no fucking clue, loading a bar up to 225 and trying it. I have a video of this and I will never show it, okay? Because you want to know what happened? That squat straight up bodied me. AKA, I folded like a lawn chair. I get knocked down, but I get up again, was playing in the background. I'm sure of it. Probably not, but in my imagination, that's what's going on. When I said to learn your form in all caps Billy Mays mode, I meant it. Don't load numbers on a bar because you and your friends are trying to see who can hit the weight first. It's not a competition with your friends. Please don't compete with your gym friends. Find a good group of gym buddies, gym goers. Maybe it's like the after work crew or whatever. Be nice to each other. I'm looking at you, gym bros. Be nice. Not all gym bros. I understand that. Actually, we have some really good gym bros in our circle that I currently lift in at one of the gyms I go to. Shout out to Taylor and brother Chris in Christ. Number 5. Speaking of no belt, no knee sleeves, I didn't use them. Like, for clarification, wearing a belt helps you create that stability we were talking about with the intra-abdominal pressure. The belt gives your body something to push off of, or it gives your body tactile feedback so that you feel more stability in your midsection, in your core. Knee sleeves are sleeves that go on your knees. Okay, so knee sleeves are usually made out of like a neoprene material. They help provide stability as well as warmth to keep your knee joints nice and happy. The common denominator here between the knee sleeves and the belt is that they provide stability, which in turn means you can effectively move more weight compared to having no belt or sleeves on. I didn't understand this. I thought using a belt and sleeves was an indication that someone wasn't strong enough to move the weight. I, however, a purist, was up on a glorious pedestal because I could squat 220 pounds for a triple, sans belt and sleeves. That was after I had tried the 225. For reference, that was like way months after the fact. Twofold here. First, I was not better than anyone because I was a purist, and I had been influenced to believe that the purist ways were better. Like, you don't need to rely on a belt or knee sleeves. You're strong. You're so strong. But second, me to me real quick, I'm just talking to like 2017, 2018, even up until 2022. Ooh, girl. Listen, you're an idiot. Wear a belt. Girl, especially when you're deadlifting 275 plus pounds, okay? Do you have to wear knee sleeves or a belt to be a power lifter? No. Is it something that's allowed in competition and the purpose of the competition is to lift as much weight as possible across the squat, bench, and deadlift? Yes. Can they help minimize the amount of stress you put on your body and provide a level of stability that makes you more confident in your squat, bench, and deadlift? Yes. And if you would like me to do an episode explaining the difference between like weightlifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding, strongman, CrossFit, etc., let me know on Instagram at Muscles and Malarkey. That was a pretty good one. Okay. Number 6. So in that vein of thinking, I also made the mistake of believing that switching to sumo was going to fix my back problems. So when I say sumo, I mean sumo deadlift. Up until this point, I had been doing a conventional deadlift, and I will get into what these are. Like I said, I thought that the sumo was going to fix my back problems. I had had another instance at some point of flaring my back up, And I thought to myself, it must be conventional. It puts too much stress on my low back. No, sweetie, you just didn't know how to use your ass or how to wedge properly. I did a whole year of doing sumo instead of conventional. And you know what happened? I didn't actually learn how to do a sumo deadlift. I just did a conventional deadlift with a sumo stance. And I still didn't know how to use my ass properly. So I was putting a lot of stress on my low back still. This was up until 2022. It takes a while for me to learn. Now let me explain sumo versus conventional. They are two different styles of deadlift that you will see in a powerlifting competition. The conventional deadlift has your feet closer together, like shoulder width-ish, and your hands are on the outside of your legs when you're gripping the bar. So you're standing up at the bar, you got your feet close together, you put your hands down at the bar, your arms are going to be on the outside of your feet, like your elbows are going to be at your knees, okay? A sumo deadlift has a person's feet more than hip width apart with the hands on the inside of the legs when gripping the bar. So think about how like a sumo wrestler will, do the big kick out and they have a wide stance. That's the sumo stance. And then you bring your hands straight down to the bar so they're on the inside of your feet. They are both deadlifts. They do slightly bias different muscles differently. And technically speaking, a sumo deadlift would take some stress off the low back, but I was not doing the correct technique for sumo deadlifts. So I played myself, for real. It's totally fine if you prefer conventional over sumo or vice versa. I think it's great to incorporate both into a training program because it helps create a more well-rounded powerlifter. And you may run into some people that will say, let me get my best basement Brad voice going, sumo's cheating. Because it limits the range of motion for the deadlift. Seriously, go on any professional powerlifter's page and see, a woman minding her own business, lifting 300 plus pounds for reps with a sumo stance. And there will be Brads and Chads in the comments that will be like, okay, now do it the right way. Sumo's cheating. Oh my God. Like, I'm not even going to get into the other comments because it'll just make me mad. But it's people who don't understand the sport of powerlifting, who don't understand that there's more than one way to do things, and that a sumo deadlift has its own technique and challenges compared to a conventional deadlift. I strongly disagree that sumo is cheating because it takes so much technical effort to do it. I think it makes the most sense to lift in a way that works with your specific leverages. We all have different torso, arm, and leg lengths. This means that your squat, bench, and deadlift are going to look different compared to someone else's. And that's okay because you may have really long femurs and a short torso, or you may have a really long tibia or your lower leg bone and a really long torso. Your arms might be super, super long, which would make you a good deadlifter, but not so great at bench. It's going to look different, and that's okay. But don't get it twisted. That does not mean that you're going to start deadlifting with a banana back, okay? Form is still key. It might not look the same as someone else's, but you still need to make sure it is a good, technically sound squat. Number 7. One big mistake that I made when I was first starting off was catastrophizing my back pain anytime I sassed it up. You heard me talk earlier about the amount of stress I had with my heavy transfers at work and then coming into the gym and not having the most optimal form. Now here's the thing. I've had back pain since I was 16, before I was really lifting. When I was early in my powerlifting career, I ended up flaring up my back while I was transferring a patient, which is a whole other story in and of itself. And if you want to hear it, send me a message. I'll tell you. It's funny. Now, I went into the gym after going to work that day, and on a warm-up set, I quote unquote hurt my back. I panicked. I called my coach, who I was working with at the time, and we talked through it. So here was our game plan. I got on muscle relaxers. I didn't move, and I was stressing out about my lifting. I was so fearful of what were to happen when I got back in the gym. This scenario would happen at least 4 more times. I was so frustrated with my body, and I did not understand why my back was being so difficult. I was prioritizing my form, right? I didn't need to use a belt when I was lifting. Why is this happening to me? I'm doing all the right things and this is still happening. Except that wasn't the way to manage it, because immediately I went to, will I ever power lift again? Am I hurting myself? Should I stop doing this? I catastrophized. And you know what that did? Absolutely no good. It kept me in the cycle of thinking, I need to make my form better. It was fine. I need to make my core stronger. It was definitely strong. I need to go back to square one and build the foundation back up. I need to avoid those movements. And looking at my back sass through the lens of fear and weakness was not empowering for me. It did not fix my problem. I've tried to learn as much as I possibly can in the past 3 or so years since I had my last really bad back flare up. When I said that I needed to strengthen my core in that thought process, I had already done a 300-pound deadlift completely beltless. So I knew that my core was strong enough. But I learned. I took classes and I worked with other professionals. And that helped me understand that I am not weak, I'm not broken, and I understand that my flares are a result of a coffee cup full of factors. Now, I did get that nugget of wisdom from a Michael Mash barbell rehab course. That was so helpful in understanding more about pain and different sensitivity and how you can work through pain and how pain is not always a bad thing. If you are an OT, PT, or a certified personal trainer, I do highly recommend his courses because I did learn a lot and they're very easy to understand. I realized that my emotional stress level outside of the gym, plus the physical stress I was putting on my body inside and outside of the gym, coupled with a high intensity program, i.e., heavy weight and pushing myself because I wanted to lift certain numbers, all of those factors came together in a perfect shitstorm during that lifting session, and boom, my body says, nope, I've hit my tolerance point and I'm going to stop you. Boom. Back flare, sass. I had to shift my thought process because it wasn't about my form. It wasn't about my stress. It wasn't about my sleep, but it was all of those things and how they interact together. Shifting my thought process helped me immensely when managing my back flare-ups. I also started working with a fantastic mobility coach because I did not realize that there were certain areas of my body that I could really work on and improve that would help my back sass inadvertently. She gave me so many tools to utilize to manage my back sass. She gave me some exercises, which helped me increase my low back's resiliency, my tolerance, and the ability to recover if I had subsequent flares. Because you can't prevent injury, but you can manage it. You can be proactive in limiting how much it affects you or how long it can affect you for. Recently, I did have another back flare up when I was doing a set of deadlifts a couple weeks ago. And after the set, well, actually it was supposed to be a set of 5. And when I did my 4th rep, I just had some soreness and I knew that I was going to be feeling some type of way. And I put the weight down and I looked at my friend and I'm like, And they said, are you okay? I'm like, I'm okay. Nothing hurts. Nothing's bad, but I know it's going to stiffen up. And by the evening, that's exactly what had happened. I was sore. I didn't really want to move. It was, not the most fun getting up like from a seated position. I would kind of catch myself from time to time. But let me tell you something. That back flare up was miles beyond what I had experienced in my worst back sass. When I had my worst back sass in September 2020, my husband had to catch 215 pounds off of my back when I was doing a squat, and I could not move. It was so incredibly difficult, and it limited me for over a week. I couldn't go to work. I was just in a lot of pain, and I was very frustrated. Now, let me explain how different my mindset is now compared to then. This is what I did. I moved as I could. I respected my body's limitations. I did some good movement to give my back the signal that I'm okay and that nothing is hurt. I kept a positive mindset, and I knew I would be better within the next week. Nothing crazy, no medications, no ice, no heat, no crazy chiropractor manipulations. By day 4, post-SAS, I was pretty much back to normal. And take away from this, if you have some SAS, not like an acute injury, but maybe some achiness or soreness or sensitivity to movement, do what you can. Respect when your body needs a break. Take down the intensity if you need to. Don't be stubborn and hard-headed like I still am, apparently. And if 240 pounds feels heavy on your deadlifts, don't go up to 290. Please remind yourself, if you are having these issues, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are resilient. Number 8. Speaking of, my mental game when I started out was weak AF. I used to be so intimidated by weight. This goes back to me being very max out happy because I never had the confidence to walk up to a bar and be like, I know I got this, because I hadn't put in the time or worked up to it at all. It was kind of like a cross your fingers and hope to God that you're going to make this lift. It was really like a gamble. When I think back to that 225, I had absolutely no confidence. And I remember walking up to that bar and being like, man, I really hope these people, I knew the people that were spotting me. Like, I really hope that they don't let me die. And I did not make that lift. And I knew full well I was not going to hit that lift. But by golly, I sure had the gumption to try. This is why it's really important to follow a program, because when you do go for your next 1 rep max or your PR, you will have the confidence to know you will be able to lift it. I wish I hadn't taken such a long time to figure out how to be confident. I realized in my last meet prep that I felt the most confident with my squats for the first time in 5 meet preps. Now, see, I had a goal all the way back in 2018. I wanted to hit a 300-pound squat, and I had a lot of ups and downs from 2018. I had a powerlifting meet I think it was March like 13th, 14th of 2020. And it was literally the day before the Panini closed everything down. And I was really disappointed that I didn't hit my 292 squat there. I hit my 286. And from that point, I did not come close to 286, 292, 300, because my next 2 meets after that, my 3rd attempt squat in 2022 was 275, and I took 2.5 kilo jumps because I had no confidence in what I was going to hit. And in 2023, I ended up getting a little bit of back sass about 6 weeks out from my meet. Like I told you, it took me a long time to learn. My meet in 2023, I went in, 6 weeks prior with back sass, and I did manage to hit a 275 squat, but I was just so frustrated because I had this goal since 2018 to hit a 300-pound squat. And I started up my second meet prep for the year of 2023 in September, and probably within, I think it was in the first 3 or 4, it might have been week 4 or 5. I do have the technology. I could look this up. Sorry, Jess, if you're listening to this. But at the beginning of that prep, I ended up hitting a heavy single for an RPE 9. So I needed to, not be an a-hole and leave some in the tank. And I hit 275 and that was fine. And I hit 285 and that was fine. And then I said, well, I can't go up. Maybe I could do 295. And I did 295 and that was fine. And I thought to myself, do I want to try this? Do I want to do this? And I ended up hitting 300 pounds at the beginning of prep for a pretty easy single. And it absolutely blew my mind. I had that confidence. I mean, even though I was saying to myself, man, should I do this? I still knew, like, when I asked myself that question, the small voice in my head was like, yeah, you can. I had grown my confidence in my strength and in my ability to lift heavy shit. Plus, now I try and go into every session with the mindset of, I will take whatever my body gives me today, and that is okay. Because some days your body's able to give you a 300-pound squat. And other days, it might look more like a 135-pound squat, and that is okay. Like I said, my meet prep in 2022 was not great. I put so much pressure on myself to hit the prescribed numbers on that day. I would look at it in the morning and see 270 for a squat double, and I would think about it and think about it and think about it and worry about it. And then I would get into the gym and I'd get warmed up and I'd be like, I don't know if I can hit this. I don't know if I can hit this. It made me so anxious going into the meet. I had no confidence and I didn't end up doing very well because I didn't fully trust myself. Like I said, I took 2.5 kilo jumps between attempts. So you have 3 attempts for your squat, your bench, and your deadlift. And the smallest increment you can take is 2.5 kilos, which is about 5 pounds. I did my first squat and it felt awful. It was like 265 pounds. And then I went up to the table and I was like, 2.5 kilos, like, whatever it is in kilos to about like 270. It was probably like 269. Nice. And hit that. And I was like, oh, I don't feel confident. But I know I can hit 275. I think I can hit 275. And I did. But it just makes me so sad looking back on that because I needed to go through it and I needed to have that experience so that I could learn from it. And it makes me appreciate how well this past meet prep went. And to go from, 275 as my third for my last 2 meets to 330 as my third is absolutely mind blowing to me. I mean, that's really freaking cool. And that is why I love the sport of powerlifting. My mental strength has grown alongside my physical strength. I know I'm capable of doing hard things, and I have figured out and overcome every obstacle that has been in my path so far, and I will continue to do that. Number 9. Do you want to hear something funny? When I started expanding my workout closet, capris were a staple. They were very trendy at the time. Like, CrossFit was super popular. It was really, really popular. And you had a lot of these like CrossFit athletes who were wearing the capris. They also had Fleo shorts were also super popular. Those were the ones where your butt cheeks are hanging out the bottom of them. And your girl was not doing that. Like, I was so terrified to wear shorts. I've always been part of Thick Thigh Club. My sister and I both, we are some thick girls. And if you need someone to help you move a couch, you call us. We got the body type for it. But like, I saw those CrossFit athletes on the professional stage and, they're wearing the sports bra and shorts, no shirt. Like, what? No way I could ever do that. Then I started working with a nutritionist about a year into my lifting journey, and I started to work on my relationship with my body, and I started to appreciate what my body could do. And I actually implemented a tactic that I still use to this day, which is called last set, shirtless set. So for my top set of either squat, bench, or deadlift, like one of the main movements, I would take my shirt off and I would do my top set, and I would just do it without a shirt on. And for context, I recorded all of my lifts because I would send them to my coach, Or for my own accountability, I would put them on my fitness Instagram page. And in my mind, I couldn't be negative about how I looked because I was physically doing something really freaking cool. I don't make the rules, but taking your shirt off to do your top set does give you super strength. So, like I said, I don't make the rules, but you should probably start doing that, and definitely at me if you do a last set shirtless set because I will be cheering you on. Freaking love last set shirtless set. Number 10. This is going to come as a surprise to all of you, but I used to be very set in my ways. I thought what I knew was right, and that was how things should be done. And in the past 7 years, I've realized that I should definitely have shut up a little bit more and that I needed to keep learning. Now, I will be kind to my past self because truly I just wanted to help, but there's an importance to keeping an open mind and understanding that there are multiple ways to achieve the same goal. But also, my dudes, please do not buy into the snake oil BS, okay? If someone is selling you something off the basis of fixing insert your problem and they're the only ones who can fix it for just 3 easy payments of $69.69, don't listen to that. Avoid that at all costs, okay? Because if someone's trying to sell you something, you can be open-minded about it. But if that's the context that they're coming from, I would recommend doing your best, yeah, and then walking away. Because remember, this process takes time. So just show up for yourself and put in your best effort. It doesn't have to be perfect, like how I used to think. All this to say, please don't worry about making mistakes or looking stupid or doing something wrong. It is how you get better in the gym. And maybe it'll help you get a little bit better in life. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Muscles and Malarkey. I have definitely learned a lot from my mistakes over the years, and maybe this episode will help you avoid some of mine. Do you have any gym mistakes or funny gym stories? Because if you do, please let me know. I need some serotonin in my life. And if you have any fitness related questions that you want help with, send me a DM on Instagram at Muscles and Malarkey or email me at musclesandmalarkey@gmail.com. Please leave a review and subscribe. I'd love to hear your feedback. Yeehaw and yee claw, everybody.